Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Liang Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's stories. A tornado touched down in the Central Valley on Election Day. Though they're rare, they're not unheard of. We have what damage was done. Courts in Riverside are dismissing cases, including those that involve violence. We'll hear from the district attorney on what's happening. And speaking of crime, district attorneys throughout the state are calling on the prison system to explain why it is releasing so many criminals. They say the system is not following rules set out for early release. A tornado touched down in the Central Valley on Election Day. No injuries were reported, but there were damages.
The National Weather Service confirmed that a tornado touched down at 1:40 p.m. on Tuesday, a few miles north of Galt in Sacramento County. A preliminary report suggested that the tornado tracked less than 1 mile and spanned around 400 yards. Wind speed reached about 70 miles per hour at one point. Although no injuries, several reports of damage were made. The wind blew off a barn's tin roof and took down the power lines. Local police said that the windows of a bus were blown out. NWS rated the tornado between 0 and 3 on the enhanced Fujita scale based on wind speed and damage. While tornadoes are not common in California, it can happen, specifically in Northern California. According to NWS, California typically gets about 11 tornadoes a year. They usually happen in the fall or spring.
A Southern California county has been experiencing a huge backlog of cases since pandemic restrictions were put in place. In an unprecedented move, the Riverside County courts have started dismissing these cases. NTD's Jackie Reels went to speak with the district attorney to find out what's happening.
The Riverside County courts are dismissing hundreds of criminal cases ranging from misdemeanor to felony cases in which many of the accused suspects are considered to be violent.
According to Riverside District Attorney Mike Hestron, that's all due to a backlog caused by lockdown restrictions. Back in 2020, the county limited in-person proceedings and suspended jury trials. An emergency order, which expired on October 7th, directed criminal trial cases dates be extended to a later date. That made for a backlog of around 2,800 cases. Hestron said the sweeping dismissals are not happening anywhere else in the state.
These are felony and misdemeanor cases. These are sometimes violent crimes, serious and violent crimes with real victims and real consequences for the people of this county. I do want to point out that this is not happening in any other county. And even though the backlogs, other counties have backlogs caused by COVID, the mass dismissal strategy is not being employed anywhere else in the state, only Riverside County.
Hestron said his office handles between 50 to 60,000 criminal matters per year, of which the majority are resolved before going to trial. But with the dismissals, actual criminals may be skipping out of the entire judicial process.
This is going to backfire on our courts. Our backlog is actually going to go up. You can't dismiss your way out of a backlog. You've got to work your way through it little by little. I know it's difficult. I know it's going to be time consuming. It might take us a year, it might take us 2 years to work our way completely through it. But eventually the system will get back to balance and we'll have enough trials where people coming into the criminal justice system can expect a trial, and it will bring both sides really, I think, back to the negotiating table.
But the presiding judge who made the decision on dismissing the cases did not blame the backlog on lockdowns. In a press release, presiding judge John M. Monteroso pointed to a lack of resources, including such as judges and an available courtroom. The Riverside Superior Court has taken measures to utilize its resources in order to have cases be resolved before trial. Some of those changes include using civil judges for criminal trials, having multiple criminal trials per day, and calling on retired judges for help. But Hestron says Riverside County has had a judge shortage for decades, and no criminal cases have been dismissed for that reason.
To take a mass dismissal approach, to just say, we've got these cases, courtrooms open today, everything else gets dismissed without any serious look at the consequences, without considering the arguments that we put forth, which is what it feels like from our perspective, I think that's wrong. And I think it's a crisis that's happening in our courts. And we've alerted the appellate courts, and hopefully that we'll get an action and a decision soon.
As for the plaintiffs in these dismissed cases, Hestrin has the following suggestions.
Come to court. The courtrooms are open. The courtrooms belong to the people. And, like we encourage our victims, come to court and talk to the judge. Let them know that, this is how this is going to affect you as a victim.
So far, 200 cases have been dismissed, with an expected 700 more to follow. Hestrin is currently pushing back by appealing to the judge's decision with the appellant's courts. Jackie Rios, NTD News, Riverside, California.
A mother and grandparents in San Diego have been arrested in connection to the death of an 11-year-old girl. They allegedly physically abused her.
According to the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, 49-year-old Letitia Diane McCormick was arrested on Tuesday. The arrest came on suspicion of abuse and murder of her 11-year-old daughter, Arabella McCormick. Officers also arrested McCormick's father, 75-year-old Stanley Tom, and his 70-year-old wife, Adela Tom. McCormick and her father also faced charges of first-degree murder. Arabella died in a hospital after being found in grave condition at a residence last summer. Officials said that the girl's father, Brian McCormick, killed himself when investigators questioned him. Arabella's 6- and 7-year-old sisters have been placed in the custody of a foster family.
A San Diego civilian defense contractor who pleaded guilty in a federal court in June was sentenced on Monday. He was accused of accepting money from Chinese government representatives in exchange for providing aviation-related information from his American defense contractor employer.
67-year-old Shapur Moinian was sentenced on November 7th for lying on national security background forms by indicating he had not had close contact with foreign nationals. Moinian, a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot, worked for various cleared defense contractors, including employers in San Diego. The U.S. Attorney's Office says cleared indicates the contractor is allowed to work on projects involving classified information. Prosecutors allege that while Moinian was working on an aviation contract in San Diego, he was recruited to provide information on, quote, multiple types of aircraft. A prosecution sentencing memo states that the United States has no way of knowing what information was passed and how damaging it was to the United States. According to Nathan Fennes, Moinian's defense attorney, none of the information involved was classified. He says most of the information provided is available from open sources on the internet. While prosecutors accuse Moinian of being aware his contacts in China worked for the government, his attorney says that the Chinese employer never specifically stated they were. Moinian was sentenced to 20 months in a federal prison.
Many violent criminals were early released from prison and have recommitted even more serious crimes. Now a lawyers association is calling on the state to do some explaining.
The California District Attorneys Association, or CDAA, wants the state prison system to justify its early release of violent criminals. In a letter, the CDAA wrote, to qualify for release, prisoners are supposed to earn credits for good behavior under Prop 57, but that often does not appear to be the case. The letter cited CBS reporter Julie Watt's investigation into the releases, describing the process as, quote, hidden from the public, arbitrary, and dangerous. The association says prisoners were released early without earning sufficient rehabilitation credits from prison and have recommitted even more serious crimes. Watts reported that Smiley Martin, the suspect of a Sacramento multi-victim shooting, was one such released prisoner. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, or CDCR, has enacted regulations to increase the number of credits given to prisoners. Sacramento County Superior Court Judge Raymond Cadet granted an order in December 2021 to stop it. Republican State Senator Patricia Bates supports CDAA. She said in a statement that the CDCR must answer why violent criminals were released early from prison if they fail to meet the necessary credit threshold. In addition to CDCR, the California Globe reported that Governor Gavin Newsom released 76,000 prisoners from state prison on his own authority in 2021. That executive order was issued through the state's COVID state of emergency, which is still in place.
We are going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we got for you when we come back. Elizabeth Holmes was denied a second trial. That's after a judge said the prosecution's claim about a key witness weren't enough for a trial. A lucky Southern Californian hit the jackpot on election day. The store owner also got $1 million. The last standing bookstore in one coastal town is still in business. It withstood through the internet age, changing trends, and the COVID-19 lockdowns. That and more on California Today. The former CEO of Theranos, who is charged with the fraud, was denied a new trial. Her sentencing is scheduled next Friday. That comes with news that she may be pregnant with the second child.
A federal judge rejected a bid for a new trial for former Theranos CEO Elizabeth Holmes. U.S. District Judge Edward Davila concluded late Monday that a key prosecution witness's recent attempt to contact her wasn't enough for a retrial. That would have given her another chance to avoid a potential prison sentence for defrauding investors at her blood testing company. Judge Davila scheduled a sentencing hearing for Holmes on November 18th for 4 felony counts of investor fraud and engaging in a conspiracy with Rawesh Balwani, her former lover and business partner. Earlier Monday, the judge postponed Balwani's sentencing from November 15th to December 7th for his conviction on 12 counts of investor and patient fraud. Holmes faces up to 20 years in prison, which would separate her from her 1-year-old son. During an October 17th hearing, media outlets speculated that Holmes appeared to have a baby bump, suggesting she could be pregnant with a second child. NTD could not independently confirm the claim. She was with her current romantic partner, William Evans.
On Election Day, a lucky lottery winner in Southern California hit the jackpot of over $2 billion. It's believed to be a world record.
A Powerball player in Altadena, California, holds the only winning ticket sold for the $2.04 billion jackpot. Joe's Service Center, about 5 miles north of Pasadena, sold the ticket.
I come 6 o'clock in the morning to work, and I find the state lottery people waiting for me here. And they told me, we have a good news for you. So you never come early. So I have a feeling we have a winner. So we got more excited. So we have start have a coffee party in the morning with the state lottery, and then we start to hear more good news for the people win, and we hopefully somebody from Altadena.
According to the California State Lottery on Tuesday, the sum is a result of a string of 40 drawings that produced no winners. That pushed the top prize into record territory. The ticket holder, whose identity was not disclosed, has the choice of taking just under $1 billion in cash or receiving the full amount in 29 annual payments.
Most of the people buy the tickets from me, they are local, from the neighborhood.
Shahayed spent the day doing interviews with the media and being congratulated by local neighbors and customers. He will receive $1 million for selling the winning ticket, but he said he will go back to work the next day. The odds of matching all 6 numbers in the drawing, 10, 33, 41, 47, 56, and 10, were 1 in over 290 million. 3 other tickets worth $1.1 million each were also sold in California. The previous record for a Powerball jackpot was set in 2016, when 3 ticket holders from California, Florida, and Tennessee shared a $1.59 billion top prize. According to multiple media reports, the $2.04 billion Powerball jackpot ranks as a world record for a lottery top prize.
When most people think of getting away to a luxurious seaside town, they expect wine, fine dining, and high art. But when NTD's David Lamb stopped through one such town on another assignment, he also found the town's last standing bookstore. Along with a secret the building hides behind its walls.
Nestled in the small town of Carmel by the Sea lies the Pilgrim's Way Bookstore, The owners welcome guests to explore their selection and explain why their store has this name.
So Pilgrim's Way Bookstore is not a religious bookstore for starters. The word pilgrim actually means wayshower or seeker of truth.
Cynthia Fernandez says the bookstore was founded in 1969 by a woman that was mostly interested in metaphysics and philosophy.
Now 53 years. The bookstore includes the secret garden, which is originally leftover land between buildings, so it's tucked way in the block.
They are located less than 5 miles from California's Monterey Bay. Fernandez and her husband, Paul Fridlin, the protagonists in this tale, want the store and garden to be an experience for the community, inviting visitors to find what resonates for them, like an open book.
So people get to explore and see things they're not entirely used to seeing. It's unique, it's hand selected because we are a small space, and they're an eclectic offering of things that we sell.
One lady actually told me that she felt like she was being hugged when she walked in the door.
The sun rays shine through the branches and warms up this nice reading spot. Now, Fernandez told me this is the most popular spot in the bookstore.
Feels like a big responsibility for us here because people want us to stay here.
As electronic books become popular, bookstores like Pilgrim's Way face extinction, but they kept their business local. Some people still like the feel of a physical book.
Nowadays, people are very careful what they buy, and in some cases, they want it to be partially content to read and decor on the coffee table or the night table.
The 2008 housing crash and recent COVID pandemic also left devastating chapters in their story. But their business model helped them adapt and become flexible with the changing times.
I think it's been an opportunity to demonstrate and to learn that business doesn't have to be all about money.
Fernandez says there's a place for capitalism to blend with humanitarianism.
And I feel like we have really used that to be our guidepost to keep the lights on, but to really have heart and connection with people when they come in the store. Make a space for people to come and experience a real bookstore, maybe as an inspiration for them to invest in theirs in their own hometown, because there really isn't anything like a local bookstore. Wherever you live, if you've lost one, then you know what I'm talking about.
Fernandez and her husband are the 5th owners of the shop. Fridlin said his wife's work ethic keeps the shop in top condition.
She has got a magical touch, and I call it her laser finger. She has a finger that goes, I want this over here, and this over here, and this over here.
Fernandez believes reading can help identify people's own sensors. She likes to think of reading as, quote, modern-day elders.
I think our world has evolved, and now the record keeping and the teachings are in books, and we adopt a book, and we learn from it like we used to our elders.
The bookstore and garden is open every day, 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. The next pages of the Pilgrim's Way have yet to be written. David Lamb, NTD News, Carmel by the Sea, California.
Now let's check in with NTD's Thomas Christian for today's Sports Roundup.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup. Paul George scored 29 points and Norman Powell added 18 off the bench as the Los Angeles Clippers extended their winning streak over the visiting Los Angeles Lakers to 9 games. Kawhi Leonard sat out for the 8th game in a row and 9th of the season for the Clippers. Reggie Jackson scored 14 and Luke Kennard had 13 for the Clippers. Paul George has scored at least 26 points in 6 consecutive games. LeBron James scored 30 and Anthony Davis added 21 points and 9 rebounds as the Lakers lost their 4th consecutive game, one off from their 5-game losing streak to open the season under new head coach Darvin Ham. James left the court with less than 6 minutes remaining due to a left leg injury and did not return. Clippers 114, Lakers 101. Kevin Huerter hit 2 clutch hoops down the stretch, and Sacramento, after 3 straight three-point games, pulled away late from visiting Cleveland. 7 Kings scored between 14 and 21 points, with Domantas Sabonis leading the way with 21, helping Sacramento to win for the 4th time in its last 6 games, and to end a streak of 3 consecutive games decided by 3 points or less. Donovan Mitchell poured in a game-high 38 points for the Cavaliers, who have lost back-to-back games after going on a 9-game win streak to open the season. Kings 127, Cavaliers 120. Injured star wideout Deebo Samuel logged a full day of practice Wednesday. Samuel has been sidelined from practices and games for 2 weeks because of a hamstring issue. His presence will be felt through his ability out of the backfield and to secure yards after the catch. Before Samuel's injury, 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan used the wideout in sets out of the backfield that are usually reserved for running backs. Shanahan's innovation unlocked a new gear for Samuel, and he posted 138 rushing yards in just 24 attempts on the season. However, with Samuel out, San Francisco made a huge trade for Pro Bowl running back Christian McCaffrey to fill the void. Coach Shanahan will now have to find a way to balance McCaffrey and Samuel in an attempt to get the most out of both of them, without one stepping on the other's toes. Kirill Kaprizov scored a pair of power play goals, and Minnesota netted the final 4 goals of the game en route to a victory at Anaheim. Matt Dumba and Joseph Kramarasa also scored for the Wild, who extended their winning streak against the Ducks to 11 games. Philippe Gustafsson made 31 saves for his first win in 4 decisions this season. Pavel Regenda scored his first NHL goal for the Ducks. John Gibson finished with 35 saves. Wild 4, Ducks 1. And that's all for your California Today Sports Roundup.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm Liang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.